Yes, he got it from me. He also sleepwalks. And so I've experienced it with him, what it is to go through one of these episodes. So I feel bad for my husband that has to put up with me when I have night terrors. It is a nightmare, really, that you feel in your body, like you feel your muscles, you feel this rush, adrenaline. It's a very physical experience if you've never had night terrors. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It really makes you tired all day the next day because you didn't really rest as you should. Anyway, today, that's what brought me to today's video, and I think I've already done the 4 videos for the month of May, but this is a true crime story mixed with research. In this article I found on my favorite magazine. I have it with me. I like paper, I like to go through magazines. And my favorite one is ID, which is Ideas and Discoveries. You can find all kinds of awesome things to learn in this magazine, and I thought I'd share not only this case that is featured as a crime story, but also an expert that will share with us how dangerous we really are as we sleepwalk. Goodness, that sounded so creepy, and I am the sleepwalker. Anyways, on the night of May 23rd, 1987, Kenneth Parks was watching TV at his home in Pickering, Ontario, when he dozed off. At some point in the early hours of the morning, he got up, walked out of his car, to his car, and drove 12 miles to his in-laws' home. He drove 12 miles while sleepwalking. There, he killed his mother-in-law with a tire iron and attempted to strangle her husband. Mind you, while sleepwalking. Still sleepwalking, he drove over to the police station and turned himself in. Now, it's not clear at the moment that he just realized what he did, but he told the police, "I think I have just killed 2 people." Sorry, I had a bird by me and I saw it in the side of my eye, and it scared me for a second. He confessed to the officers this, and doctors later determined that this guy was, had a history of sleepwalking, and he was in fact asleep when the incident took place. It took 9 hours of deliberation. A jury ruled that he was not responsible for his actions. The Supreme Court of Canada later upheld the acquittal. In its decision, the court noted some would, quote, regard the exoneration of an accused through the defense of somnambulism as an impairment of the credibility of our justice system. doctors at the trial of Kenneth Parks were that he had no motive and his testimony was very convincing. Things were quite different for an English colleague of mine who asked to provide an expert opinion in the case of a man who had killed his wife in the night. There again, the accused claimed that he had done it in his sleep, but then a witness testified to seeing the man dig a grave in his garden weeks earlier, also at night. It is extremely unlikely that a sleepwalker would first dig a grave in his backyard and then later on kill his wife while once again sleepwalking. In this instance, the man was convicted. Now, they asked the doctor, do such sleepwalking cases ever involve children? And the doctor answered, I remember a spectacular German case from 2002 in which a mother claimed her 12-year-old daughter had murdered her own father in her sleep. To support the mother's claim, there had been testimony from a friend of the family that the girl walked in her sleep, in addition to other testimony that she'd once entered her parents' bedroom with a knife in her hand while she was sleepwalking. All the same, it seemed almost inconceivable that a child could kill a grown man in her sleep with a single stab wound to the heart. Evidence later pointed to the mother, whom a court convicted and sentenced to life in prison. But yes, some cases are not perpetrated by sleepwalkers, but some small percentage still do. So what does a doctor do when a patient is a danger to others? And the doctor answered, imagine how you'd feel. You wake up suddenly to find your husband or wife with a strange and distant look on their face as they try to strangle you. You would no longer feel safe in your own bed after that. One patient had himself committed to a psychiatric clinic because he was so afraid of what he might do in his sleep. When he went home on the weekends, we'd give him a restraining belt that only his wife could open. That made it possible for him to spend the night at home in their bed without having to be afraid that he might harm her during sleep. The question again is, why do some people become violent in their sleep? Let's take the example of the man I just mentioned, said the doctor. He'd grown up in LA, where his relatively affluent parents would often leave him home alone with his younger brother when they went out at night. He was always afraid of what might occur if someone tried to break in, so he'd always sleep with a baseball bat beneath his bed. The first time he tried to strangle his wife was not long after he proposed to her. When he came to see us for help, we attempted to determine the size responsible for someone else. So whenever he would feel threatened in the night for any reason and think he had to defend himself against some imagined attacker, he would not immediately realize that it wasn't an attacker at all, but rather his own wife lying there beside him. The next question is there always interaction between a sleepwalker and someone else? The answer from the doctor is absolutely not. I would say that many somnambulists don't even realize that they are sleepwalkers. Many of them live alone and have no idea that they are doing strange things in their sleep. Often they only realize this after they have fallen from a window in the night and injured themselves, for example. One of our patients almost suffocated after he tried to swallow food that was still in plastic wrapper. Another one had woken up in the middle of the night to find himself sitting behind the wheel of his car, and he had no idea how he got there. A better question, and this is something that, I think a lot of us ask ourselves is, do patients sometimes feel as though they're losing their minds? And the answer from the doctor is, we sometimes talk to patients who have been wondering for a long time about strange things that happen at home. Some have reported opening the refrigerator in the morning to find all the contents in a state of disarray. Things knocked over, a knife smeared with butter, stuff like that. One young man told me that he emptied his ashtray every night only to discover cigarette butts in the next morning. These sorts of events can really rattle people. The next question is, what influences the things people do in their sleep? Often, sleepwalkers would do the same things in their sleep that they've been doing during the day. One young man, for example, had recently moved into a new apartment. So what did he do in his sleep? He got up and slid the bed back and forth across the room with his girlfriend still in it, which he had been doing during the day while arranging furniture in the new space. Another young patient worked at a pharmacy where she spent her days dealing with the incoming shipments and putting medicines in the drawers where they belonged. So what did she do at night? She got up, walked over to her dresser and sorted socks and underwear, moving them from one drawer to another. We often recall and perform a series of actions that we have practiced during the day. But why would we want to perform these actions while we're asleep? According to this doctor, our sleep is cyclical, with its phases typically lasting between 90 and 120 minutes. But cycles vary from person to person and from night to night. A normal sleep cycle occurs in stages, from light drowsiness to deep sleep. Sleepwalking often happens early in the night, usually during deep sleep called N3, because people get less N3 sleep as they age. Sleepwalking is more common among children and young adults. Sleepwalking episodes can last a few few seconds to a half an hour or longer, but most last for less than 10 minutes. It's often difficult to wake someone in such a state, but if you ever encounter a sleepwalker, it is safe to wake the person up, although he or she may feel disoriented if you do. All in all, sleepwalking needs to be more thoroughly studied because enough research has not been done. Why is that? According to this doctor, sleepwalking research is inherently difficult to conduct. Somnambulists rarely sleepwalk during a sleep study in the lab, and if a patient does get up to sleepwalk, the leads to the EEG get torn off. But I do recall an incident during a sleep study in Switzerland. A 16-year-old patient managed to sleepwalk without tearing off the leads, and the EEG continued to record his brain activity. It switched from smooth waves to a burst of the delta waves seen during deep sleep. There was activity in the cingulate cortex, which regulates emotions and motor functions, but no activity in the prefrontal cortex that governs higher mental functions. The last two questions are, I think, very telling. Is it known why some people sleepwalk and others don't? According to the doctor, if you perform an MRI on someone who sleepwalks, all the data will be completely normal. But we do know that sleepwalking has a genetic link. Some 80% of sleepwalkers have at least one other somnambulist in the family. And we know there are certain factors that promote sleepwalking: stress, lack of sleep, fever, alcohol, and certain medicines. There was a case of a woman, for example, who had been prescribed zolpidem, which is used to treat insomnia. The woman gained 50 pounds in a few months. She could find no explanation for her weight gain until she woke up in front of the fridge one night. Her doctor gradually discontinued the drug and her sleep-related activities stopped. Since April 2019, the FDA has required stronger warnings about potential side effects of this drug and other similar medicines, including sleepwalking and sleep driving. So the real question is, could sleepwalking be prevented by inhibiting deep sleep? The answer is there are medicines that can be used for that purpose, but only for a short period. For example, if a 9-year-old sleepwalker wants to go to summer camp and is afraid of waking up in an embarrassing situation. But such medicines can't be used over a long period of time because deep sleep is vitally important. There are other medicines that relax or even impair the muscles, but this may have because it reduces the amount of deep sleep needed at night. Finding the solution requires experimentation for both patients and their doctors. Now, a few things I wanted to add to this is I took my son when he was about 10 years old to this sleep clinic we were sent there by the pediatrician, but they had a consultation, and then in the end I was under the impression that they were going to do some kind of a different study, and that they were going to give me a solution basically for what I was experiencing with him that was worrying me, the night terrors and the sleepwalking. I mean, at that point he was trying to he would wake up, well, he'd be sleepwalking and go into the pantry and try to drink like oil. There was this time we were watching a movie with my husband, and he got up and went to the pantry, and I thought, well, he must be hungry or something. So I asked him, what are you doing? And when I look at him, he had an olive oil bottle in his hand, and he was trying to drink it. Another time he tried to get out of the house, and for those of you that maybe are in Europe, or I know where I'm from in South America, that's how doors are. You have a key, so you don't have a bolt or anything, easy to open. You have to have the key to open the door, and that's how my mom knew that I couldn't get out of the house at night, because I'd actually need the key, and she'd hide it from me at night. But here, I mean, it's only, it's very easy to unlock the door from the inside. That's how the doors are here in the States, and maybe back home it's changing too. But what I'm saying is that I was worried because I knew that, the only thing that made it okay a little bit is that it was kind of loud, the lock from the front door, but at the same time I couldn't sleep at night because I was trying to be partially awake to hear the noise if he was trying to leave the house. Now, I've read crazy stories about sleepwalking. I can't tell you that nothing then. Maybe during night terror more than once, I've punched my husband, not because I wanted to, but I'm doing something while I'm having that terror, and so I kind of spread my arms, and more than once I've hit him with my fist in the face as he was sleeping. Not cute, I know. Now I laugh, but I felt terrible the next day when he was all kind of bruised. And it wasn't that hard or anything, but I kind of did something to his nose with my fingernails. And that's one instance among many others. But not because I wanted to punch him, or, it was just, I was getting up and I kind of put my arms, like I opened my arms and there was his face. So it wasn't like crazy stuff. Although it was pretty crazy. I've scared myself to death more than once waking up outside. So when I start to feel like it's cold, I realize, oh my goodness, something is wrong, and I wake up from my dream, or my sleep I should say, because I'm not dreaming sometimes. Some other times I open the window and the cold air would wake me up. So I always am intrigued in this new studies and everything. Coming back to that clinic that I took my son to, I thought, well, there must be some kind of maybe something they're testing, some kind of therapy they're testing, and see if we can friends' houses to sleep, or if we were going camping, and we're in the woods, we're scared that he would just wander, give him one of those. And I was like, are you serious? Am I paying for you to give me, this very expensive appointment to in a very fancy sleeping clinic just to tell me I'll give you a sleeping pill for your 10-year-old child? And that's when I kind of realized that there really isn't much help out there for it, and that needs to have more testing, or somebody needs to care enough to kind of dive into this that is very unknown. Thank goodness I am doing better. I don't know how my husband puts up with me, really. It must be so creepy to wake up to your partner speaking to nothing really in a dark room. It must be terrifying, but he is a trooper, and he just, he hugs me and tells me it's okay. Let's go back to sleep. You're okay. It's okay. You're dreaming, and he'll hug me until I kind of stay still, and then that's when he goes back to sleep. Which, he really is something else. I don't think I could do it if he was the one that was having all this sleeping issues. So, to each their own, I guess. But I know how it affects a family. I know how it affects a partner, and I know how it affects as a mother when you have somebody who suffers from this, a son or a daughter, or somebody close in the family that suffers from this. And I really couldn't believe when this guy was acquitted for it. I guess everything lined up to the point that, it pointed that this was not something he planned. Like the other person who said that he was sleepwalking when he killed his wife. I have a video about another case that happened while the guy was sleepwalking. If you want to check it out, I'll have it linked down below in the description box. I'm going to look for it as sleepwalking something on my channel. I know it's there. Thank you so much for being here today, guys. I hope that this article was as interesting to you as it is for me.